All right, everybody, we are back and very, very excited to be with Roberto Reyes from Dexis here on the Digital Trade Show podcast. How you doing, Roberto?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. I know you were busy with the customer, so I was glad we were able to have you come over. I'm sure she was asking you some great questions about some stuff. So, yeah, excited to have you here. So much going on with digital imagery and all that stuff, so really excited to have you share more about what you do. Before we get into that, maybe share with everybody a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Sure, happy to. I've been with Dexis for going on 14 years.
Okay.
I met them 14 years ago when I was deciding to get out of pharmaceutical.
Okay.
And I had a friend that was already with the company, and he said, you got to come over, and it took me about a year. Multiple interviews to actually get in, but I actually did.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it's been the best move ever.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
I mean, all kinds. I mean, just talk about the things that have changed since you started.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, the first thing, probably the most impactful thing, was going distributor model.
Sure.
We used to be a small boutique type of a company. I think there was like 40 of us when I started. There's probably like 78 of us now.
Right.
And that's just within the Dexis brand of the cable care family.
Yeah.
So it's been a different way to do business.
Yeah.
And then now, as you probably know, we're also multi-distributor instead of just one exclusive distributor. So that's also impacted our business, and all very positive.
Absolutely. So what I'm excited to learn about are some of the questions that you get when it comes to your equipment, especially because it's hot. A lot of people want to know about it. They know how crucial it is to incorporate into their practice. And so I imagine you get all kinds of questions. But what are maybe, if you think of some of the most popular that some of the doctors ask you when they're trying to learn about what you guys do and how you can help?
I'm very lucky that Dexis is one of those name brands that people recognize as being the leader in digital X-ray sensors. Yeah. Probably the question I get the most is, how much does it cost?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a question that we have to have a dialogue about.
Sure.
Because you want to have the opportunity to build a little bit of value before you just kind of jump to how much it actually costs. And there's of course questions about the comfort of the sensor, the image quality. Right. Is it integrate with what I normally have now? Do I have to get servers? What's the operating system? And all these other things that come into play.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Dexis makes it pretty easy to perform in just about any type of atmosphere and environment. So those are easy questions to answer.
Yeah. What do you see? You work with, I'm sure, a lot of different practices, but share a little bit some of the success stories that you get from some of your practices. Like maybe initially they're, like you said, they're like, big investment, the cost or what have you, but then they jump in, they bring it into their practice, and within weeks, I'm sure, are already excited about the results they're getting. Share a little bit about that.
And I tell you, that's the reason I left pharmaceutical, is because with this company, from the very beginning, it's been a company that makes impact. Yeah. And you feel it when you go back, like you said, in just a few weeks' time, you go back to these customers and you see the difference that it's made in their practice. Yeah. And, not to sound corny, but the term that comes to mind is raving fans.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting dynamic when someone talks about having Dexis digital X-ray, that they feel like they're part of the family.
Sure.
It's not only the dentists that feel like they're part of the family, but our distributors, anyone that's involved with us, feels like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've actually been very lucky to find from the very beginning with Dexis.
Well, and there is a big support post-purchase piece of what you guys do, right? It's getting it in there, but I'm sure the hours that you've spent on the technical side of questions that they have. Sure. And I think to your point, you don't build a quality brand like that if you guys aren't able to follow up and support them. But talk a little bit about that and maybe some of the things that you guys do to really support them on the backside once they purchase that equipment.
Right, so the tech support is a huge part of it. And that's 9 to 8, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. We have the trainers that come out and actually train on the equipment. We have help with installation via the 800 number if they don't have their own IT guy. So there is a good amount, of, like you were saying, post-sale, follow-up, just to make sure that the experience is what it should be. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a good thing to talk about, because I tell you, without our trainers and without our tech guys in Alpharetta, Georgia, we wouldn't be half as effective as we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How about something that you're really excited about anything that you guys are working on, or maybe even just the continued growth of the product and things like that?
Yeah, actually the thing that's most exciting right now, there's a few things. I think probably the thing that's most exciting is having these multiple distributor channels, and having new relationships and leveraging those relationships. And then of course on the product side, the Caraview, which is a transilluminator, which is just a game changer from the standpoint of finding carious lesions that you normally wouldn't see.
Right.
With just a regular 2D image of a 3D object, meaning the tooth. And then, of course, everyone knows by this point about our ergo sensor, the flex sensor. So again, we're the first, as innovators to have this Dexis sensor now flexible. So you can imagine the comfort that would really mean,
Absolutely.
in the mouth.
Yeah.
So very nice initial reviews on that product as well.
Yeah. Do you ever get from some of your practices, they share with you the feedback from their patients?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you see this all the time. The practices that are out there making the investment in technology, they will tell you that patients come in and they like going to a practice where that practice has decided to invest in some of the newer things. We hear that all the time, but I'm sure you hear them tell stories of their individual patients that like, well, even just the comfort of that sensor, like you talked about, just little things like that.
Sure.
But how about some thoughts on that and what you hear a lot as far as what the patients say when they're like, wow, this is kind of cool, from the old school way of taking their X-rays.
Yeah. Well, it makes a bold statement about the practice, that the practice is able and willing to invest. It also speaks to, the experience of the staff. And it makes their job easier just on a daily basis. Not to mention, it makes the communication between the staff and the patients, and this patient experience be what it really deserves to be.
Absolutely.
So certainly the ripple effects of introducing any technology, not just Dexis digital X-ray, but any technology that's worthwhile, is multifold.
Yeah. Anything that you guys are doing as a company, for example, to make the process easier of getting a unit? Certainly that the units. We can say they're expensive, but of course, when people say to me it's expensive, I always say, well, compared to what? Because when you look at the value you get in the practice. But anything in particular that you guys are doing just to maybe make it a little bit easier for the practice to afford it?
Financing is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Also, I believe that the price points have come down, from the very beginning when digital X-ray first was introduced.
Sure.
And then I think that we also have situations where, we can be creative with things like instead of having 2 units, only having 1, and using that from room to room versus having to do, a big sort of investment in, an infrastructure of technology vis-a-vis computers and servers and that type of thing.
Right.
So there's ways to
be
to
creative.
Get into it where I feel anyone at this point in 2018, can certainly have it if they really want to have it.
Sure, yeah. So I am not an accountant, but I know that this is always a cool thing to talk about when it comes to capital equipment in dental practice, especially with some of the new tax laws and things like that. But I bring it up because I'm sure you deal with it a lot. There's a lot of practices that there is a benefit. Certainly they should always, check with their accountant first, but there is a benefit for capital equipment. Maybe talk a little bit about that, with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what fuels a lot of the year-end purchases, as far as the tax code section 179 and being able to write that off as far as capital equipment. And it's something that, again, because you're going to do anyway and you should do anyway, it's nice to know that there is an economic benefit above and beyond just the getting rid of the disposables and getting rid of the things that the digital X-ray actually does away with. There is a very nice tax incentive, tax-related savings when you do digital.
Awesome. How can people learn more about what you're doing and maybe your demo process, or a great website to let everybody know where to find out more about you?
We have a bunch of great guys that do what I do across the nation. The best way is to call the 888 number at Dexis, or just go to Dexis.com.
Okay.
They'll be happy to give you a call, set up a demonstration, come to your office, answer all your questions, and have this be done in a safe environment where you can ask as many questions as possible. Learn a whole lot about digital X-ray from a bunch of guys that have been around as long as I have, if not longer.
Yeah.
And really start off on the right foot.
I think I spent some time, Roberto, selling products to practices, and you and your team, and from a capital product perspective, are such a valuable piece of the experience, right? Because especially if it's newer technology, they have a lot of questions.
Sure.
It's so nice to have like guys like you to be able for them to kind of ask and learn about. So, and you've been there for a while. I think that's another thing too. A lot of you guys that have sold this equipment for many, many years. You're very knowledgeable and certainly wanted people to reach out. So, but. How about a couple fun questions? You good?
Yeah.
All right. We might just have to get a little closer to the mics because it looks like we got a stampede here. But we've got the whole group coming here. If there was a song that best described you and kind of what you've learned in this dental industry, what would it be?
Oh man, a song.
Or even a genre of music. Yeah.
A genre of music. Well, I'll tell you. Wow. I'm a big Nirvana fan.
Okay.
I'm not sure what song would describe me.
All right.
But I do like Nirvana.
Okay. Great band.
Yeah,
great
100%.
music. How about a favorite sandwich?
Oh. Wow. Roast beef.
All right. Anything on it? Lettuce, tomato?
Turkey.
Okay.
From Jersey Mike's.
Oh, love Jersey Mike's. Yeah, hashtag Jersey Mike's. I mean, that's my wife and I tell you, that's like, and we only have one where we live, and it's like 20 minutes away, but we still we make the trek.
Yeah.
So that's a good sandwich. I'm hungry now. It's lunchtime. How about favorite day of the week?
Oh, Monday.
Monday?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. The whole week ahead of you.
Loving the game.
It's a restart.
Awesome. And then how about a place that you'd like to travel that you haven't had a chance to go to yet?
Well, a few of them, but probably Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Or even Iceland, something like that, European. Yeah, just always wanted to and never got a chance to.
Very clean, I hear, and great people. Well, Roberto, thanks so much for coming on. This has been awesome, and I know you guys are doing some great stuff at Dexis, and certainly there's so many questions about a lot of these newer technologies, and you guys are such a great resource. So appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, thanks
really
a lot.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.